The late Marion Barry's son has been through very public highs and lows. Today, Marion Christopher Barry wants to make it very clear that yes, he is a public servant like his father, but he is very much his own man. I'm Armstrong Williams, and this is the Right Side Forum. Welcome back to the Right Side Forum, Christopher. You know, it's interesting. Your father was a public figure, and it is amazing in this world of public figures, especially for children. They expect you to be your father. But what people don't realize, you can't be your father. You've got to be Christopher Barry, no matter how many handlers you have, no matter what people expect of you. And so I'm not really interested in your father today. You love your father, we respect his legacy for the city, but we really want to know who Christopher Barry is. And so that's what we're going to do today. This is not really about politics and about you running for office. So you and I are just going to have a conversation. You can relax, forget about the cameras. This is unscripted. I'm curious to know, what is it that fulfills you? What is it that you really enjoy? And let's just start early on as a child. The things that really made you really fulfilled and really complete, and the things that really made you, you know what, I can really get into this.
Well, Armstrong, we've never met, but honestly, growing up, you know, my father used to always tune into your show. So, you know, I always listened to you on the air. I never knew they were black Republicans, so, you know, that was always good to hear a different perspective on things, and I always respected that.
Thank you.
You know, growing up, I had a lot of different experiences, you know, growing up in Washington, but I say the most thing that stood out from my youth is I had a chance in the summer times to go out to the country and spend the summers in North Carolina on the farm and, you know, working with animals and riding horses. And so, you know, I got that city and country life growing up. So, you know, I'd say, and I enjoyed the outdoors. And as I got older, I got into sports and, you know, just a lot of different, you know, diverse range of things.
Now, you know, I grew up on a farm. I grew up cropping tobacco, slopping hogs, baling hay. Now, you said, and you know, North and South Carolina are like twins. Yeah. You say you visited the farm. Did you ever actually do any farm work on the farm? Yeah. What did you actually do?
You would know Carolina's plenty of tobacco, so.
You know something about tobacco, man?
I know plenty about tobacco.
You got to be kidding
me. Hanging it in the shed and you know, letting it dry. And I know
Are
about
you
a
serious?
little tobacco. And you know, every morning we had to feed the animals, so to feed the chickens, the cow, you know, we had cows.
And we had to milk the cows growing up. We had to milk the cows, and sometimes they would take their tail and whip you in the face.
Had the sow and the hog, you know, the leftover food we would feed to the hogs, and you know, so it's a lot of different things. You know, goats, you know, just about any animal you could think of.
What was it like? How old were you when you lost your mother?
I was 27.
Oh, you were 27?
27 years old.
That had to be tough.
Definitely. It was the hardest period of my life.
It was.
You know, she was my best friend and, you know, just, you know, my rock.
You're right. Can you really have a relationship with someone, even though he's your father? And I know the scripts and the narratives they write, they want to portray that you're best friends, you're close, you talk all the time. But can you really have a relationship with someone who's that public?
Well, yeah, you know, because for one, just watching and growing up around Marion Barry, had he not been my father, he would have still been a great role model and been my hero. But I say the closest thing he showed me is, you know, I saw him in the public eye. I would see his speeches. I would watch him on the city council channel. But the most important thing, you would see him after work, see him what he did to prepare for those speeches, you know, see what got him in his mindset and what motivated him. So to see him behind the scenes and on the scene, it just gives you a fuller perspective of what it takes to be at that level of leadership.
But did you ever desire watching your father, who was so public, young Christopher, you know what, man? I want to fulfill my father's legacy when he no longer is around, when he steps from the stage. I want to do that someday. You know, some kids grow up like they want to be like their parents, and that makes sense. Did you ever really want to be in politics and run for office?
Well, growing up, you know, no, because I was involved in it in a way that you saw a lot of the negative side of politics, you know, seeing the betrayals of friends and the backstabbing and, you know, the scheming that goes along with it. So it was something that turned me off. But as I got older and, you know, just started living my life and encountering certain issues and already having an understanding, you see that it's a role for me to play. And for my generation, we have certain issues that are just for us, especially young black men. So, you know, I felt that I could take that, and with knowing what comes along with it, I could be effective.
Now, you know, obviously, with your father, people knew about his challenges with drugs, and you've had your issues with drugs, and you know, people will say whatever the father is eventually what the son becomes, and obviously those have been struggles for you. But I mean, but what do you learn from that? How do you break those cycles? How do you break those chains? How do you say, you know, there are things I love about my father, but I don't want to become this. I want to be better, because it's got to be a struggle, especially when everything you do is in the spotlight.
Well, especially for my generation, you know, a lot of young people have unfortunately turned to substances, you know what I mean? But what it actually does is once you get past that, it gives you a certain level of strength. You have to find a spirituality, you have to find a center, you have to find positive things to counter that. So actually, you know, once you walk away from that, it gives you a chance to move forward and push forward harder in more positive areas. So you'll get the benefits of that as well.
Can you say that you've walked away from it, you're drug free?
Yeah.
It's not a part of your life anymore?
No, it's not a part of my life.
And I believe you.
And not only that, just drug tests every week. So I mean, it's documented. You can go to court. It's on paper there.
But you know, that's an accomplishment, man. Some people can't do that.
No.
It takes a lot of strength. It takes a lot of discipline. It takes a lot of soul searching to do that, because it's just not easy, especially when it's all around you. You grew up around it. For you to break that, man, kudos. I mean, that's an example for others. We're going to come back. This is the Right Side Forum. We'll continue with Marion, Christopher Barry, right after these messages. Don't go away. We'll be back. Welcome back. This is the Right Side Forum. I'm your host, Armstrong Williams. Our guests, we continue with Marion, Christopher Barry. Welcome back. You listen, what about the spiritual side of you? Do you go to church? Do you read the Bible? Do you believe in God?
Yes. I attend church. I attend all type of spiritual activities, whether it be a masjid for Islamic services, whether it be my father's church, Temple of Praise, you know, just anything that's open your mind to self-improvement and enlightenment, you know. So, you know, I take it all in. You know, it's a very strong spiritual base in the black community. That's the basis of our survival. So, you know, you have to be tapped into that in order to make it.
Yeah, you gotta listen. You gotta have that firm base. You know, it's interesting for you. So much is expected of you. Huge shoes to fulfill, and yet you seem to have the peace about yourself. Everyone knows that you're running for office. That's not why we have you on. But you know what? You're running for office. Is it because you feel that you can make a difference? You have something to add, that your life has prepared you for this? Or are you trying to continue your father's legacy?
Well, not really continue his legacy. It's impossible to do that, but take his values, take his strengths, you know, take some of his best ideas and apply it to the issues of today. You know, I didn't grow up in the same generation as my father in the civil rights or segregation. You know, growing up in the 80s and the early 90s, we had our own set of issues. You know, prison industrial complex and war on drugs. So growing up as a young black man in D.C., before it was the city it is today, you encountered a lot of struggle. So, you know, you take that and just add that into your thoughts for the future. And, you know, so it's definitely not really following his legacy, but trying to create my own for my generation.
You know, it has to be interesting, because obviously many people will do for you and treat you a certain way because of your father. Your father is no longer alive. I'm sure you've gotten the reality of who people really are since he's passed away. A lot of people are fake. They will do because of their father, because they feel they're going to get something out of it. What is it like knowing that a lot of people that's probably around you is not around you for the right reasons? And how do you separate that? And how do you surround yourself with people that you can trust and you know they're there for you unconditionally?
Well, I learned that lesson very young. having seen what happened to my father in 1990, I was 9 years old. So I saw a lot of people that I grew up calling uncle and this and that testify him in court, and that was my first lesson of seeing, how people can turn on you. So I learned that lesson very young, and I carried that with me, through my adulthood. So, it's not something that rattles me or I expect it, and by going through that, you know who your true friends are, and it's mostly people that I've known most of my life. So, it's something that prepares you for the ups and downs and the changes that people will take you through.
In running for office, you've got to be prepared to lose. What happens if you don't win this race?
If I don't win this race, I'm still continue with my business. I've already made my mark and established myself as creating jobs in the community. So, and as an entrepreneur, so I will continue down that road. And, honestly, I was comfortable doing that. We, created over 200 jobs in Ward 8, so I felt fulfillment through that. But, I felt that I had an obligation once my father passed to take that same values to a higher level. So, if I don't win, I'll still be in Ward 8. I'll still be serving, and I'll still be fighting for economic empowerment and, making sure that we get a piece of this growth and development that's coming to our section.
Everybody remembers earlier this year the situation with the bank and the teller, and people were talking about your temper, and you need somebody who's measured and who's a leader and who can conduct them. So what do you learn from that, and what should people know when you learn from situations like that, which becomes so public?
Honestly, as a small businessman and being a black man dealing with, financial transactions sometimes that, you find a certain level of, I'm not going to say discrimination in the banks, but, it's just a double standard in some instances. So I've had issues in the bank before where I've walked away, no problems, even at PNC and other issues. But I guess just during that time, I was going through a lot. It was a month after my father's death, and maybe I hadn't realized how deeply I was grieving. But a lot of the support that I've gotten from the community and the prayers have uplifted me and helped me move in a positive direction. So I definitely feel the good energy people have been sending towards me, and it's helped me get through that and get past that.
In the minute we have left, if there's one thing that most people don't know about you, that they should know about you, what would you like to share with our audience?
Well, a lot of people say that I haven't necessarily been involved in politics per se, but maybe I felt that, it's other ways to serve other than being involved in a political organization. I saw my gift as being able to work with people, being able to run a business, being able to manage men, money, and materials to set off a goal. So coming from a builder's background or construction background, you just take a more practical approach to leadership. There's no anything artificial. Everything has to be laid out correctly. All your measurements have to line up, or your plan is going to fall. So taking a builder's mentality into politics, it's just you straightforward with things. You see things in a different kind of way, to where as though everything has to line up correctly before you measure twice, cut once. So you take that and apply that to people and apply that to politics and policy. It gives you just more of a realistic view of how you get things done.
I'm gonna cheat some time here because today is the 50-year anniversary of Selma, and the president and many leaders in Selma, Alabama today celebrating the 50th year. Quickly, your thoughts on Selma before we go?
I see that, as being a movement that has brought us to where we are today, but I think that my generation and young people, maybe a lot of us are too young to remember those times, but we need to see that, the way people mobilized and organized and fought injustice, and use that as an inspiration and a guide for us to deal with our issues. I think that people in that generation, my father's generation, had tremendous, strides to overcome, coming from the South, dealing with segregation, but we as young people need to learn how to be more civically active and more active in politics in order to make change. So that's part of the reason why I'm running as well, to bring the next generation into leadership and learning how to just not complain, but do something about it.
Look,
yeah.
We really wish you well in that journey. You're a fine representative of your father. Wherever he is, he's looking down and he's proud of you. Thank you for joining us. And we'll be back. Legalize marijuana in the district. That's up next.